human trafficking, named cases, and the power structures behind exploitation. VO Start. To understand how global cartels traffic humans, we need to move beyond theory and look at documented cases. Because the methods we've been describing are not abstract. They have names, they have victims, and in some cases, they have court records. Documented case: Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. In the United States, one of the most thoroughly documented human trafficking operations was run by Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein was arrested in 2019 on federal charges of sex trafficking of minors. He died in custody before trial, but his associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, was convicted in 2021 on multiple counts of sex trafficking and conspiracy. Court testimony established that victims were recruited through false promises, isolated from family, financially dependent, and psychologically controlled rather than constantly restrained. No drugs, no border crossings. But the control mechanisms are critical. Why the Epstein case matters here. Epstein did not operate like a street-level trafficker. He operated like an organization. He used intermediaries to recruit victims, private transportation networks, multiple properties as controlled environments, financial leverage and silence payments, and social insulation through wealth and influence. That structure matters because it mirrors how cartels manage people, even when the end market is different. The shared control model. Across cartel trafficking cases and the Epstein files, the same mechanisms appear repeatedly: initial consent through deception, escalation through obligation, control through isolation, compliance through fear or dependency. Physical violence is not constant. Psychological control is. This is not coincidence, it is efficient. Tren de Aragua. Named leaders, documented patterns. Tren de Aragua's expansion across Latin America has been documented by law enforcement agencies in Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Chile, and the United States. Its leader, Hector Rustenford Guerrero Flores, known as Niño Guerrero, has been identified by authorities as overseeing an organization involved in migrant smuggling, sexual exploitation, forced labor, and debt bondage trafficking. While individual cases vary by country, investigations consistently document the same model. Migrants agree to be transported, debts are inflated, documents are seized, victims are forced into sex work or criminal labor. Just like Epstein's operation, the victims are controlled more by fear and dependence than by visible chains. CJNG, documented extortion and forced labor. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, historically led by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, is primarily known for drug trafficking. But Mexican prosecutors and international watchdogs have documented CJNG involvement in migrant extortion, forced labor, and coerced cartel support roles. In CJNG-controlled regions, migrants are often forced to work off smuggling debts, act as lookouts or couriers, or provide labor under threat of violence. The structure is decentralized, but the method is consistent. Like Epstein's operation, CJNG does not need to imprison people permanently. It needs them compliant. Balkan networks, convicted trafficking cases. In Europe, multiple Balkan trafficking networks have resulted in documented convictions. Cases prosecuted in countries such as Italy, Germany, Austria, and the Netherlands show networks trafficking women from Eastern Europe into forced sex work and labor exploitation. These cases consistently involve recruitment through acquaintances, confiscation of passports, debt manipulation, and threats to family members back home. Unlike cartels, the violence is quieter, but the control is just as complete. The Epstein files and cartel similarities. The Epstein files reveal something crucial. Trafficking does not require poverty alone, violence alone, or borders alone. It requires power asymmetry. Epstein used wealth and influence. Cartels use fear, territory, and debt. Different tools, same architecture. Both systems isolate victims, control movement, obscure accountability, and rely on intermediaries to maintain distance from leadership. Why these parallels matter? Human trafficking is often misunderstood as a crime of brutality. But the most successful trafficking operations are administrative. They look organized, they look legitimate, they hide behind structure. Whether it's a billionaire with private jets or a cartel with safe houses and corridors, the crime functions the same way. The myth of the monster trafficker. Cases like Epstein often get framed as anomalies, but they aren't. They are exposed examples of a system that exists everywhere. Vulnerability meets power. Cartels didn't invent these methods, they industrialized them. Why enforcement struggles? Law enforcement is built to stop visible violence, contraband, border crossings. Human trafficking hides in consent that later disappears, contracts that aren't written, debts that never end, and victims too afraid to testify. That's why prosecutions are rare and operations persist. Closing. From Jeffrey Epstein's properties to cartel-controlled migration corridors, human trafficking follows the same blueprint. Exploit trust, create dependency, control movement, silence victims, insulate leadership. The difference isn't the crime, it's the scale. And until trafficking is treated as an organized financial system, not a series of isolated abuses, the names may change, but the structure will not.